Hey guys, it's Mike here, and welcome to my review and predictions of Dragon Ball Super Episode 65, Is This the Final Judgment? The Ultimate Power of the Absolute God, in which I'm going to be reviewing this episode, breaking it down as it goes along, explaining what happened during the episode, and giving my thoughts as a whole as to what I thought during it, what I liked, what I disliked, the pros and cons, and telling you whether or not this episode is really worth your time. So without further ado, I'm going to get into that review, and then stick around after that to make sure to stay through the whole video, because at the end, I'm also going to be doing my predictions. So make sure to stick around for that, because there's some really big stuff going on in the next episode, just as it happened in this one. So without further ado, let's get into this review. Now, this episode started off the same place it ended in last week's, with Zamasu and Black emerging together and becoming this new fused being. This fused Zamasu, so to speak. And we can see him right here as he discusses how he can feel the power of the two different powers which he once had as two different beings melting together into his single body. And his energy was somehow getting even stronger after he initially transformed and fused together into this being. To the point where he even actually generates what appears to be a halo around him, and as you can see, even Gowasu refers to it as a halo. So I kind of wonder if the halo in this case is reserved for, say, the most powerful beings in Dragon Ball. Now, we know Whis naturally seems to have something kind of similar like this around his neck, which I guess since Whis is an angel, we can infer it is, in fact, a halo. So, you know, this kind of makes me wonder if they're trying to imply that he's now around the level of Whis, or on par with him, at least in this form. But I'll explain a little bit more as it goes along. And, you know, Black says there is this body that can increase infinitely in strength and is immortal. This is true justice. And I mean, seriously, when you think about it, look how, you know, he is immortal, and I guess he can increase infinitely in strength because the fact that he's going to keep taking damage over and over and over, and if he has Black's ability to continually get those mid-battle Zenkai boosts combined with immortality, then he's going to be a big threat. It's kind of similar, I guess, to how Vegeta said that he would be able to defeat Frieza inevitably, as through many battles he would be able to eventually overcome Frieza. But I mean, if we're going based on how it works in Super, it would appear that Zamasu only has to have one battle where he keeps getting beaten down and getting stronger and stronger throughout the battle, and then eventually wins. So, hey, maybe when Vegeta turned into Immortal Saiyan in this case, he would have beaten Frieza a lot quicker than he expected. That would have been pretty interesting to see happen. But Zamasu starts using, like, all these finishing moves on him and on them, and he uses this lightning attack, which Goku and Vegeta seem to be able to repel, and it's kind of interesting that they can repel it. I guess you could say that Zamasu wasn't really trying at this point, but, you know, going even further, he shows them even more power, and he uses this attack called the Blades of Judgment, rains them down around them, and explodes and takes them out, pretty much. And really, like, you know, one of the things I felt like when I was watching this is Zamasu just, like, was all he was thinking about during his Zero Mortals plan, how to come up with these cool, awesome new techniques, you know, just to show off how much of a badass he is and, you know, pretty easily take out Super Saiyan Blues. I don't really know, but I like where this is going. So, you know, we see that, you know, they're shocked at his power, and then we flash over to the humans down below in their bunkers, you know, their Terminator-esque bunkers during the post-apocalyptic world that they live in, and, you know, they're all freaking out because they can feel the battle happening around them, and, you know, they try and escape because everything starts to collapse underneath. They go to the surface, and immediately one of the Zamasu's lightning attacks just vaporizes the people who stepped out initially. You know, so everyone after that point is like, okay, what are we gonna do? You know, we'll volunteer, you know, some of us can go. And then Yajirobe's like, hey, let me do something for once in a while. And everyone's like, okay, go ahead, that's fine. So yeah, like Yajirobe himself is pretty much forced to go out and, you know, investigate everything that's going on. And they finally, you know, the coast is clear in this case, I guess, because I guess Zamasu wasn't purposely targeting them or something. They don't really explain it, but they come out and they look, and the resistance force basically kind of starts to lose hope. Like one of the leaders of it right here saying, he doesn't really want to die, and there's nothing they can do to repel this kind of threat. There's nothing they can do to beat someone like this. And it's pretty interesting that this episode really did take some time to develop these human characters a little bit more and, actually focus some time on them. Because realistically, like, that's not really something a lot of times Super has done, or Dragon Ball has kind of done, where they've, actually put faces on these people sometimes more often than not, and really, made them feel like humans and made them see, they're going through these horrible things and these horrible situations. Really, the Future Trunks arcs of Dragon Ball thus far have really done a better job in many ways of showcasing this, because, we know that there's no Dragon Balls, there's very little hope for them to survive, and they're all just struggling to live. So it's a lot more compelling and interesting when the humans, are far more developed and they're far more interesting as a result of this, as opposed to the normal typical Dragon Ball humans who just kind of forget everything that happens every year, and, they don't really care or have any knowledge of anything that's going on. These guys do, and it kind of breaks and subverts that idea that we're used to, and it's a good subversion, in my opinion. And so, Jirobe, believing in Goku still to this day, saying there's something I know he could do for the kids and for this world, he's counting on him. And, Zamasu's basically just playing around with them and, just mocking them with his power at this point, because he's still significantly above Goku and Vegeta. And I'll just say real quick, it does seem like, a little nitpick of mine for this episode is that they do kind of reuse a lot of animation at times. Like, this shot right here was reused, like, several times, and some other animation was reused a number of times. I mean, there's some great animation this episode, which I'll show shortly, but some of it seemed like they kept reusing it over and over again. Like, I know anime tends to do this in a lot of cases, but it's kind of distracting sometimes when I keep seeing the same frames over and over again. Like, instead of different camera angles, instead of more fluidity in the cinematography and the motion of which we're, observing. So I would be more interested in the future to, hopefully in the next episode, I'll just say that the animation will turn it up a notch, but it does seem like it's really going to. And, this animation was hardly worth complaining about in this episode for the most part. I mean, aside from stuff like this. So basically what Gowasu says is that by fusing, he's obtained even greater power. The immortal Zamasu and the most powerful Goku Black, when they became one, his power didn't just merge together. It's not just 1 + 1, as, the fusion does not necessarily work that way, but it expanded to no end. Now, I assume he doesn't literally mean that's infinite in power, unless we're going to get to the point where they're literally saying now Dragon Ball characters are beyond infinity, which is going to piss off Death Battle to no end, because they just, got done saying that Superman has no limits, and now Goku and Vegeta are literally past unlimited. But we'll see. So it might just be hyperbole, but it's Dragon Ball, so a lot of times it's not. They can't even comprehend or understand how strong or how beyond them he is as a god. And then Goku's like, oh, well, all we gotta do is get even stronger than that. I don't know how they're supposed to do that in just the middle of a battle, but, the Super is kind of retconned how their power works anyway. But then they're like, well, he has the 2 powers of immortality and ultimate strength. I don't know, but all I know is I'm never going to forgive him, and until I beat him, I won't be satisfied. So, this does fit in line with their characters. They want to fight, but at the same time, what the hell are they really going to do to these to somebody so powerful? Well, we'll find out. So during this time, Bulma takes the time to once again take out that hangar so that she can repair the time machine. Trunks says that he's going to go and fight Zamasu, and Mai gives him 2 sensu beans. And, it's pretty interesting that they actually do mention that there are 2 left in the sensu bean bag. I mean, it does kind of look a little bit more full than just having 2 in it. But, you know, I feel like the mentioning of two of them is probably going to play a vital role in this, because why would you make it two unless, you know, something big is going to happen? And I'll probably mention that more in my prediction, so stick around for that. But, you know, Zamasu's talking about, oh, today the Zero Mortal plan will be complete and I'll erase all remaining life. And doing so, a world will be more perfect than ever began. And they're like, oh, don't get cocky. I'm still going to defeat you. And he's like, you Saiyans unable to admit your weakness. I shall show you my great godly might. And then he creates this weird aura creature that we happen to see. It does seem kind of, again, reminiscent. You know, it seems like Zamasu whips out so many powers, and we can even see him using a finisher, again, the Lightning of Absolution that I used before. Honestly, like, half the time I was watching this episode, I almost felt like it reminded me of, like, a Final Fantasy game or a JRPG in which you fight the final boss and he keeps evolving and he keeps transforming, and then he keeps having all these different finishing moves that he uses on you. And Zamasu seems like he went full-on Sephiroth, or, you know, like, one of the top villains of Final Fantasy, Skies of Arcadia, whatever you want to call it, and just whipping out these ultimate moves one after the next. Although this is also very reminiscent to me of when Goku and Beerus were fighting in the Battle of Gods arc, and their aura created dragons. I still think it would have been cooler if Goku's aura created a giant Ozaru as opposed to a dragon, you know, and Beerus maybe could have created a giant lion or something like that. That's racist! I know. But, you know, it would have been great. It would have been more, it would have been a little bit better, but, you know, this is really awesome nonetheless. And he pretty much wrecks Goku and Vegeta, takes him out, knocks him out. Goku's completely out of his blue form at this point, so he's unconscious. And then Zamasu just starts blasting the earth with lightning. And this was very reminiscent to me of the Namek fight with Frieza after he had hit Namek, and, you know, all the lava shooting out around the world. You know, the winds are going insane, and, you know, everything is just going crazy. We could see Master Roshi's house. I guess Turtle's still alive. I don't know if Master Roshi's there or not, because in the History of Trunks special, which might be canon now, I guess, he was shown still alive in a submarine, and I guess Turtle was not on their radar, so, you know, that's there. We even get a cameo from Android 8, Ader himself, Hachan from Dragon Ball. Very interesting, you know, that he's still alive in this, too. Unless, of course, they're showing us another world and they're, like, shattering timelines or something, but I really don't think so, because we probably see Tien, like, what's going on? I haven't been in this entire arc, even though I could have sealed away Zamasu. Poor Tien. You know, everything starts to, like, go bad, and, like, we once again see these little kids, and they're put in danger. Like a great Steven Spielberg movie, putting children in danger always gets our motivations and our investment up, and Trunks does his best superhero act, saving the little girl from the bunker. And, you know, it's pretty cool. It reminds me of something like out of the Avengers, when they're saving people instead of in Batman v Superman or Man of Steel. They're just, like, letting everyone die a horrible death. You know, you can't blame that on Superman as much as the writers, but, you know, I'm still gonna try. So, you know, like, they're taking everyone there, and Zamasu's saying, okay, everything's over, everything's done, and Goku's like, not yet, it ain't over, Zamasu, I told you I'm going to defeat you. And then they power up, and they charge at them. Now, they say Saiyans have no limits, and here he goes, full power mode. That seems kind of contradictory, no limits and full power. But, you know, aside from that, it seems like they're using this to then kind of, like, cover up the gigantic power scaling issues that happen, like, immediately after this, in which Goku and Vegeta fly directly into this bird-looking thing, and they use their power to destroy it from the inside, shattering its core, I guess? I didn't even realize it had one of those, or why it would have one of those. And then attacking Zamasu, and I feel like this animation part was done by Shida. It had some great fluidity to it, and it kind of looks similar to that episode that he, you know, well, the multiple episodes he's worked on so far, I suppose. But, like, you know, it seems like Goku and Vegeta are really, like, even though Zamasu's clearly more powerful than them in this case, and this, again, reminds me of Whis. You know, when Goku and Vegeta are training with Whis, they stop him, you know, more visual kind of overtures to Whis and his power, making me wonder if, you know, Zamasu is more powerful than Beerus right now, and Whis. I mean, realistically, with the fusion multiplier, you would think so, but then again, it might be a little bit less than we're thinking. You know, I might do a video on that in the future. But he just wrecks him, and he, you know, sends him into the ground. He hits him with the Blades of Judgment, mushroom clouds it up, and takes him out until eventually Trunks shows up. And, you know, Trunks is, you know, raging out again, once again transforming into that form. We still have zero information about how it works or what it's called or anything. And he flies at Zamasu, and once again, through his rage, he somehow deflects all of Zamasu's attacks with his sword and attacks him, and Zamasu has to block this move. You know, once again, like, why, you know, if he's that much more powerful than Trunks, why is he even bothering to block? And, you know, Zamasu takes him out. And at this point, I kind of thought, oh shit, is Trunks gonna die? Like, is that the reason why there's two sensu beans? Is Trunks gonna die and they're just gonna eat the sensu beans or something? But, you know, an even more awesome scene than I expected happened when Trunks charges up, you know, like, Zamasu uses his Holy Wrath finishing maneuver, his ultimate move, which he has to charge up all of his ki and stamina and hit, like, 27 buttons in a row so that, you know, he could use the Konami code to activate it. And Trunks uses his Game Shark to charge up his Galick gun after his energy went below -0. Don't divide by 0. And, you know, he charges it up in this awesome thing, and you actually see all the people that he's thinking of. I'll put everyone's wishes into this one attack, and fire his Galick Hoe or Galick gun directly at Zamasu, and he's actually holding off his attack, surprisingly enough, although Zamasu is, of course, getting the better of him, until Vegeta shows up. And Vegeta says, "That's right, Trunks, don't underestimate the potential of Saiyans and mortals, Zamasu." And they both team up and fire their father-son Galick gun. You know, very similar also, you know, what we're seeing to Gohan versus Cell with Goku helping him out, as well as very similar in the shot to what happened in the second Broly movie, in which he's firing this big ball of ki and the father-son family Kamehameha is holding it off. And they're putting everything they have into it. It's cool that we could see them transitioning between Vegeta and Trunks right now. You know, once again, very reminiscent, I guess, of the father-son Kamehameha from the Cell games. This is really taking a lot of inspiration this episode from previous Dragon Ball with a lot of homages. And, you know, they actually somehow overpower Zamasu and blow up his attack directly in his face, which, again, how could, you know, Trunks and Vegeta themselves overpower him? I mean, I know it's an awesome scene that looks great, and, you know, it's great emotionally, but how could they possibly overpower someone who's a fusion like this? And I know everyone's gonna be like, oh, Zamasu's using 1/1 trillionth of his power. He seemed to be struggling a good amount, and then after you see this, again, you know, they're shocked, but he's immortal. Of course he's still alive. And you see he looks pretty pissed off that they could actually do this to him, that they can actually rival his power to some degree after he's fused. And once again, this seems very similar to when Goku fired his Kamehameha times 20 after using the Kaioken on Frieza on Namek. And, you know, it's pretty cool. Like, I don't know if they're trying to say that they're, you know, that he's only 4 times as strong as either of them. I don't think that, you know, that might be thinking a little bit too into it. But he pretty much takes him out right now. He uses, once again, his lightning, but Vegeta, being, you know, a great dad now, I guess, jumps in the way and pretty much gives his own body in sacrifice so that Trunks will not take that attack and Vegeta will instead take it. It's a great emotional scene, the way it's executed, the way it's shot and delivered, really awesome, you know, and again, it's showing Vegeta's development. He cares about his son the whole time his son is fighting. He seems like he's really proud of him because Trunks is being way more of a Saiyan than his own son in his own timeline, and I guess Gohan. So, you know, he's really doing everything he can to, you know, stand up for his son and help him in this case. It's great to see that for Vegeta's character. He raged out when Trunks died, and now he's taking the bull essentially for him. Or evil blue, or even purple lightning bolt, whatever. You know, so at this point, though, Goku shows up, and he's pissed, and he says, "I'm gonna erase all of your light," charges up a Kamehameha. Zamasu charges up his Holy Wrath. They fire at one another, another ki clash. It seems like they're both kind of evenly matched in this case somehow, and Zamasu certainly seems like he's trying here. So I guess Goku is holding back like a gigantic portion of his power the entire time or something, but they're doing it, and once again, the explosion happens, And it's very reminiscent, again, to the fight between Goku and Hit during the Universe 6 arc. And, especially the ending. Like, when Goku does the Kaioken times 10 Kamehameha and Hit's resisting him, then we have the flash of explosion. Very similar. Again, I don't know how Goku is possibly doing this well against Zamasu, even if he's pissed off and putting all of his ki out. Zamasu, I guess, should be stronger, regardless, like by a gigantic margin. But again, I mean, I guess you could try and say maybe because they're two completely different species and, they're a little bit different, like from different timelines. Maybe their fusion isn't as complete as, say, Vegetto. Not to mention, they only have, like, one transformation on top of it, being the Super Saiyan Rose, which doesn't seem to have a gigantic multiplier, so maybe they're not that much above, as fused Zamasu, that much above the other Saiyans, like a few times, maybe 4 times or something. But even then, that kind of a gap for Goku to, like, go beyond, and Trunks and Vegeta, like, to overcome, it seems like it's kind of saying that he's not that much above them. But then again, the next episode will probably say that he's using 1%, so who really knows? But speaking of the next episode, let me get into that in a moment, but overall, I would say that I really did like this episode. Now, would I say it's really worth your time? Would I say it's really something you're going to enjoy? Despite the flaws of it, despite my nitpicks and my gripes, I guess you could say, I would say yes, it's an awesome episode. There's so many great scenes, the father-son Galick gun, the fusion, there's so many great things that happen during this episode. I would definitely say it's worth checking out. It's pretty awesome despite its flaws, but that's Dragon Ball as a whole, I suppose. So let's get into my predictions for the next episode and the preview, breaking it down as to what's going to happen. So it's automatically, we can tell Toei knows where the money is in this next episode, as the very first thing we see is a close-up picture of Vegetto and his face, and he turns into a Super Saiyan Blue. Now, as we can see, Vegetto seems to have the same clothing he had during the Buu saga, and I guess that, his clothing is pretty similar to what it was during the Buu saga, although Vegeta has armor in this case, so I don't really know why it would be the exact same. Not to mention, I guess Vegeta's clothes were kind of ripped, so how does he get how did they even get new clothes when they fuse anyway? Like, do their clothes fuse? I guess they do, but whatever. I mean, it's still pretty cool. So he turns into his Super Saiyan Blue, and, we're seeing exactly what we want to, but then it seems like something weird is going on with Zamasu, because, like, half of his body is purple. He's starting to look like Two-Face from Batman Forever with the Riddler, Jim Carrey's Riddler in it, with played by Tommy Lee Jones. That would be an interesting casting choice. Maybe he'll play him in the dub. But, they're struggling. We see this awesome Kamehameha, and it's, like, covered with lightning, so he's really seeming to, like, go all out. It seems like he's taking some damage, as you can see the scruffs on his body, and he's using his instantaneous movement. It seems like he's really struggling. This is not easy for him, despite the fact that he has all these transformations on top of the fusion multiplier, I suppose. But, Zamasu can continue to improve and improve, and, let's put out as much strength as we can, because apparently their moves still and their attacks still seem to be having an effect on him somehow. So I feel like maybe, like, they're messing up right here. Like, they're screwing him up hard. Like, like, kicking him right in the face. Goku punched him in the face. Now Vegeta's kicking him dead on in the face. So I don't really know what's necessarily going on here with him in that. I have a theory, though, and that theory is that perhaps what we're seeing is that Zamasu is being so overwhelmed by power that, like, his body cannot handle it, so that he's just taking so much damage that his own immortality is kind of wearing out a little bit, and Vegeta's power maybe is going beyond even the power of the Super Dragon Balls themselves. I mean, Trunks implied something earlier in the arc, like, oh, his immortality must have a limit, so Goku dealing so much damage to him, or Vegetto, actually, that this is happening to him is entirely possible. Although there is another possibility, I suppose, we could examine, and that is that perhaps Zamasu transforming, fusing into this merged Zamasu when we had Black with the Super Saiyan Rose transformation, fusing, with a normal Zamasu, may be doing what the old Kaioshin said in the Buu saga, which is if Vegito fuse together as Super Saiyans, they might stay in that form forever, which will negatively impact their stamina and cause them not to live as long. So maybe it's having a negative effect, or there is again the possibility that perhaps Zamasu's improvement is happening to such a degree, he's being filled with such power and such evil that's tearing him apart, and I guess it's essentially transforming him into like a Makaioshin, and now we're finally going to see the first Makaioshin in this series. So that's another possibility as well, but it seems like, Vegito is definitely getting the better of him. I don't know what he's doing here. I guess he's putting his hand to his face so he could try and blast him. This does seem kind of similar, I guess, to the fight between Kenpachi and Noitorara from Bleach in the Wako Mundo arc when he's holding him down. He's right about to put a sword straight through his eye. So, maybe it's kind of like a little overture to that. I really doubt it, but it does seem kind of similar. But then again, it looks like he's powering up. So I think it could possibly tie into that whole improvement thing with Zamasu with his body, that he's just improving to such a degree and he keeps going and going and going with his immortality that he can keep fighting back, and he becomes more monstrous as it goes along until I guess eventually he transforms into a fully purple monstrous being, But I guess we'll have to find out, as it goes along. Now, is Vegito really going to be able to defeat Zamasu? People are very rude outside when I'm trying to record. Now, is Vegito really going to be able to defeat Zamasu? That is one of the questions I do have to wonder. Again, if Zamasu's truly immortal, I don't see even Vegito being able to defeat him. He might be able to seal him away, or maybe he'll just, make it so that he'll never gain his stamina back. But I can't see him, I don't see how he would actually defeat him unless his power is explained to be beyond infinity or beyond immortality, whatever it happens to be, or Zamasu's immortality is explained a little bit better. We're given a little bit more dialogue which says, his immortality is, it has a limit in terms of how fast he can regenerate and how fast he can come back. At which point, I guess it won't be immortality, it'll just be super regeneration. But I guess we'll have to see as it goes along. But my name is Mike, and this has been a review and predictions for Dragon Ball Super Episode 65 and the upcoming episode to come. Let me know your own thoughts down below in the comments section. Do you agree with my review? Do you disagree? What did you like about this episode? And what are your general thoughts? Where do you think this is going to go in the future? What are your predictions for the next episode and the conclusion of this arc? Let me know down below. And if you haven't yet subscribed to my channel, I do content for Dragon Ball Super, but I also do content for Star Wars, I do content for movies, I do content for other anime, and, Harold, my associate on this channel, also does a lot of videos about muscularity and muscles in general, and the most muscular and badass characters in these series that we, happen to watch together. So let me know your own thoughts down below, and make sure, if you really want to subscribe, I would certainly appreciate it, so that you can see all these videos if they sound really good to you, and hit those notifications so you can get updated and alerted right away. So as I always say, stick around, because there's a lot more to come in the future.
Yeah, the multiplier for the Super Saiyan Rose pink transformation is weaker than even 1% of my biceps when I'm dead, which is never.